everybody. Hopefully you are doing well, and hopefully you can hear me loud and clear. I am allegedly John O'Canute, and we're here for a fun show. It's going to be an interesting review. I'm in the middle of my NAB review, and we went to NAB a few weeks ago, which the weeks are really piling on here, so it's bizarre that time is going as quick as it is. But anyways, that happens when you get old. The weeks go by very quickly, and you race back to I feel like we're always racing up to Christmas every year. But anyway, all right, so I've checked my audio, and it looks like Randy has also checked my audio. Much appreciated, my friend. Let's go ahead and pull up vMix Social. Something seems... There we go. All right, so hello from Winnipeg. What's going on, Randy? Good to see you again. Thanks for stopping on by. Always a pleasure. And you can hear me, so that's great. I wore my BirdDog swag shirt today. I don't work for BirdDog anymore, but I used to. And this year, I had a chance to kind of go to NAB and see what they were up to. And so today we're going to talk about that for sure. Make sure that we're all on the same page and give you my impressions about what the announcements are and kind of how they're doing. So more on that soon. But also on Tuesday, there was an announcement from Insta360 and the long-awaited question about whether or not they were going to re-enter into the 1-inch lens market. And spoiler alert, they are not. So they did announce, just right out of the gates, they did announce that they were coming out with a X5 camera. So they have, X3 was kind of the OG when it came to their new product line and form factor. But then the X4 seemed to quickly follow up. Like it was a year and a half or so. And the X4, I think, hit the market. And then I genuinely think it's only been a year since the X4. And now we have the X5. I did talk to Insta360 when I was at NAB. Now, it wasn't something that I was necessarily going there for, but I was hoping that they were going to make an announcement at NAB like a lot of companies do. But when I talked to, first I talked to some people, we'll just say Insta360 representatives, because I don't think they were employees, and this is going to sound terrible, but I definitely felt like these people are here at the booth just to fill out the booth. Because I went into asking questions about the product line. I went into asking questions about my current experience with the product line. And they didn't seem to really track too much. Now, I did drop a little nugget that in my backpack, I had an Insta360 Evo. And that was like, whoa, you have an Evo? Like, you're one of the early adopters. And it's true, I was. And I love the Evo for many reasons that I have already stated here on the show, mostly because it did 360 and 180 3D for VR, which is something that I'm into. I like using VR for capturing my travels and helping my kids, for example, experience things that I get to experience, and so I can record it on an Insta360 device, and then they can be immersed in whatever video experience that I was having. So the announcement for Insta360 was kind of highly anticipated, and we will go ahead and bring that up here. Insta360 came out with the X5. Now, one of the teasers in the trailer the week before this launched was low light versatility or a low light performance. And that got everyone's hopes up that the 1-inch was coming back. Because, German? Get out of here. This is the German website. For some reason, I landed on... Okay, here we go. So, Insta360 X5, it has a larger sensor than the X4. And there have been a lot of comparisons. I'm not going to spend too much time on this, but I want to give you the full rundown here. The X5 has a larger sensor than the X4, but it is not a 1-inch sensor. So that's a pretty big disappointment. 1-inch sensors give you not only the low light performance, which is something that I'm really interested in, especially with VR, but also give you the advantage of a lot of color depth. Okay, you can do a lot more with the whites and the blacks than you can on a more simplified lens. And I suspect that the market for a 1-inch lens was not there. I mean, we kind of experienced that even at BirdDog when I was there. Like, we had a 1-inch 4K camera that was pretty expensive and had really remarkable color manipulation and color specs and everything. But that didn't really sell it. And so I think what Insta360 thought here with the X5 was, we're going to make a compromise. We're not going to go all the way to 1-inch because that's going to drive the price up to $800. We're going to upgrade our number one camera, the X4, make it the X5. We're going to add some features that everybody likes. We're going to increase the sensor size, but we're not going to go 1-inch. And that will keep the price down, give us better low light performance than the X4, and give us a few other options. So I understand. I think I've like come to understand why they made the decisions they did. But unfortunately, it's almost there. The question now remains, do I buy this camera? Because I have been waiting to purchase a new 360 camera. I mean, one second. Okay. I've been waiting to upgrade my Insta360 Evo. Okay. It even says that on here. It is 3D VR and 180 3D capabilities. Do I decide to upgrade or do I hold out? The big deciding factor is we're going to go on a few just local trips here with my family this summer, and I would like to be able to capture some 360 video. You know, the Insta360 has really kind of clamped down on the 360 element and have done away with the 180 world. And I don't see that coming back. Even the 1-inch, I'm basically giving up the 3D look. And it's kind of a niche market for me because 3D is really neat. You know, like you can, it's almost like you can like touch the items. They're physically in the space visually. Whereas 360 is cool, but everything's flat. And so whether or not, I'm disappointed that the trade-off, but the sensors are getting so good that I really want to see what this looks like in a decent headset. And I have upgraded this headset now to where I have the resolution, and I would love to shoot in 8K, which is what this is. So we can just scroll down here. I'd love to be able to shoot this in 8K. The battery issue is not really an issue for me because I run with battery banks everywhere I go, and so I can charge this thing when I'm not using it. One of the big selling features, and this goes into the conversation about it being an action camera, and I have my thoughts about it being an action camera, but you can replace the lenses. So if you scratch the glass, you can actually pull the lens off and put a new one on with a replacement kit, and it's very straightforward. It's very user-friendly. So that's pretty cool. That's pretty neat. That reminds me, by the way, everybody, I have enabled, I'll put this over here, VLC, so that I can play sound effects. Of course, I'm not too sure that actually went out. What channel is this going out on? Nothing. It says the playlist is empty. Why is that? All right, well, anyways, I'll sort that out later. That's not really important. What's important is finishing up this discussion about this camera. So this has some pretty crazy recording modes. In 8K, I believe it's 30 frames, but in 4K, it is 60 frames or more. I think it's 60 or 120 or something like that. So that's great. And the low light performance on this thing, allegedly, according to the marketing, is like, look at that difference. That's crazy good. So that I'm okay with. Like, that would be a big, if I had to compromise, that would be the way that I would want to compromise. So HDR options. Now, the HDR is only available in 5.7 at 60 frames, but again, not the end of the world. That's fine. Everything looks pretty good. And so the question is now, how do I afford to buy it? The audio improvements, kind of happy with. If you watch the YouTube videos of the windscreen in action, it basically has this front screen, and I'm assuming it has foam underneath it. It is water rated too, up to 15 meters, which means you can walk out in the rain. I wouldn't go swimming without a dive case on it, which they do make, but you know, it can get wet and it won't be a problem. Whereas my Evo, that would be a problem. You got to keep it kind of cool. Oh, by the way, folks, as always, today's show is not brought to you by Amber Mugs. Keep your coffee hot and your creamer curdled. We are drinking Tim Hortons maple flavor this morning, and we're keeping it at a nice warm 120 degrees. The creamer has not curdled yet, so here's hoping. Anyway, this new camera is, we're going to mute that. Oh, that's the actual noise reduction thing. Let me see if I can play that.
What's up, guys? We just landed on Kauai, Estons, and Loggy Bopper. We are going to be shooting with the new X5 and showing you guys a little bit the behind the scenes of what it's like to shoot your Insta360's new action camera. Check it out. Let's do it.
Right, this is the voice
What's up, guys?
enhancement
We just
option.
landed on Kauai, Estons, and Loggy Bopper. We are going to be shooting with the new
Loggy
X5
Bopper? What the heck
and
is that name?
showing you guys.
So this is what I want you to hear.
What's up, guys? We just
Like
landed
that's pretty impressive. The fact that they can, whoops, I'm sorry, I'm gonna mute all this now. That's pretty impressive. If that's actually the audio, that there's very little processing involved in terms of you got to turn it off or on. Like if it's just on default, then I like that a lot. They have fast charging available. I'm assuming you need the proper brick for this, but USB-C, you can get 80% in 20 minutes. That's pretty awesome. If I had battery banks in my bag or one and I was getting low, I could get all the way back to 80% in 20 minutes. That's great. The other thing that I really like, well, there's lots of options here, but the replaceable battery. You can buy a secondary battery, have them pre-charged, and hot swap them out while you're running. So that's pretty neat. I like that a lot. The stabilization is very impressive. I've been watching these videos for the past couple of days, and yeah, the overall, I mean, that is, with an action camera, that's absolutely needed, right? So the stabilization of that is very impressive over all of the previous versions. I was very impressed with the stabilization that was a part of the Flow Pro 2 that I bought for NAB, which is where all my videos were recorded. That worked pretty well. I didn't have too many issues with it, but it has its limitations, right? It's not an all-in-one camera. The only complaint that I have, honestly, is they have a bunch of like new mounting options as well, by the way. So that's great. The only major complaint that I have about it is we're really focused on the action camera idea. And that is or was the downfall of GoPro. I think I said this before, but I found some people at the booth, and I wasn't entirely impressed with like their ability to talk and converse with me, mostly because they didn't seem to know anything. They were just kind of there. I hate to say it, but more like eye candy than they were. You know, they were thinking, oh, we're going to have all these young girls on the booth. And so I showed up and I was like, what's the sensor size? And they were like, and I was like, okay. tell me this, tell me this, tell me this. They're like, and they like started looking around for somebody, and I was like, why are you here? Like, I don't. Anyway, so the philosophy of NAB is be big, be present, and be impressive. But the moment that a technical person shows up and starts asking you questions, you need to know, or you need to have that information at your disposal. Now, that was day one. I did the same thing to Canon, and quite frankly, I was very unimpressed with the first 3 people I spoke with. The 4th guy kind of knew what was going on, but I said, what's your optical zoom? What's your sensor size? What's low light performance? Show me your AI tracking. Show me. And it was like they never expected anyone to ask these questions. And I thought that these were all basic things about cameras that you would expect to know about your PTZ line at the very least. So it's a little frustrating to spend all that time and effort to go to a show to find out all of the new details about your product line, and then you don't have people on your booth that know those details. You have 1 guy out of 4 that are manning the section for the PTZ cameras, and they don't know. Or you have this Insta360 booth, which was kind of weirdly laid out. Like, I really felt like the Insta360 booth was weird. It was all like wide open, and there were a few products scattered around at tables, and then they had this big like presentation spot that was empty most of the time. And I just thought, man, somebody needs to talk to these guys about their booth creation, because it doesn't invite the new user or the previous user, the guy that had the previous line of products, invite them in to understand why the new things are important. And the X5 hadn't launched by then, which I understand you don't want to get into the Apple launch cycle. But quite frankly, you were pushing the X4 like it was the latest and greatest thing. When you had an X5 coming out 3 weeks later, your emphasis, they had a whole table of X4s. The whole emphasis on the X4 is out the window. It was a total waste of time for me to even talk about the X4 at the show when this was happening a few weeks later. So my visit to Insta360, the booth, underwhelming. The people there didn't really know what they were talking about, except for 1 guy, and I'll talk about him in a second. And you had a new product coming out, which basically makes the X4 obsolete. Really strange. Really, really a strange way to spend your money, because you probably should have announced the X5. If you're going to announce it within the same month that the convention was, you should probably just announce it. Just get over that fact. There was 1 guy, and I was asking questions, and eventually I was like, okay, well, thanks for your time. And they, of course, stuffed my bag with pamphlets and all that crap that you get at shows. And I said, thanks, and then I went over to the X4s, and I was starting to ask a little bit more, like, look at the specs. And my friend that was with me was like, what's this? And what about this? And what about that? And so I found another guy that was there, a gentleman. He was a little bit older than all of the young college girls that were manning the booth. And he kind of sidled up and was like, do you guys have any questions? And I was like, yes, actually, I do. And so I asked him my questions again. And he said, well, admittedly, I don't actually work for Insta360. So I'm shocker there. But he was a presenter on some of the like specific things that Insta360 was covering. And that showed an interesting dynamic to, at least they had somebody at the booth. Now, he didn't know all the technical questions, but I said, okay, what's the story with the 1-inch? Because I've been waiting for them to come out with another 1-inch 360 lens, because I want to buy the 1-inch, but they're discontinued. I would rather buy a 1-inch lens, honestly, than an 8K not 1-inch lens. And he said, I don't think they've given up on it yet. There are some announcements coming later, but they haven't given up on it yet. There's just things that we can't talk about yet. I said, okay, so they have a product coming. Hopefully it's the 1-inch. Now, it turns out it wasn't. It was the X5 that was coming out. The other question I asked him, though, was, why are you guys doing the same thing GoPro did? GoPro went belly up. Why are you making action cameras? Stop that. No. And the flaw in the philosophy, I think, is there's like 1 out of 100 people are doing action camera things. How many of us are going to the Swiss Alps and skiing all the time? Zero. The number of us that are doing this is zero. How many of us are getting on our Honda 720, whatever this thing's called, and speeding through the European countrysides? The vast majority, zero. So, like, stop with this action camera thing. Make this camera make sense for why I would buy it. I'm not an action. I don't know if you know me, but I'm not really into the action sports world. Why would I get this? The whole point of all your marketing is, look at all these cool things you can capture while you do these extreme sports. Newsflash, most of us don't do that. Most of us go to our jobs from 9 to 5 or 8 to 5 or whatever it is, and we come home. Why would I buy this camera? Because maybe you go away on weekends, or maybe you're going to take your kids to the park, or maybe show that stuff. Show everyday people doing everyday things, capturing it on a camera so that you can have those moments. Then talk about how your AI editing stuff finds those moments in all of your footage and helps you make a quick little video recap so that you can share it on social media fast. Do that. But instead, all the marketing is, look at all these extreme things that you can do. Look at this. On the beach. Okay, I go to the beach once a year, maybe, in January. Speeding through downtown on your motorcycle. Okay, I don't do that. Going snowboarding in the Swiss Alps. Okay, I don't even snowboard, period. Riding horses on the beach. Okay, I don't do that. All these things it'll encourage you to do that thing. No, it won't. And I know it won't because I already own one of those things and I still don't do those things. So explain to me, make it make sense. Why is this your marketing? This is GoPro marketing. GoPro is going bankrupt. Why are you doing the same thing a bankrupt company is doing? I don't understand. All right, that soapbox is done. And as you can tell, I'm still a little fiery like I used to be. I still got it in me. Hello from Michigan. Oh, I know who this is. What is going on? Mr. Boyd. Good to see you, my friend. Hopefully you're doing well. Thanks for checking in today. Randy says, so I'm supposed to start looking at an LED wall 20 feet wide that works with P200 shooting at 1080p 30 from around 60 feet away. Wowzers. Interesting. There were some LED walls at the convention. You know, in years past, back in 2022, it was the year of the LED wall. Last year, in 2023, NAB's theme was AI. This year, there was some AI stuff, but that wasn't really the leading conversation. It was more, everybody was kind of doing their own thing. I asked somebody about that. I forget who it was, but I said, I thought you guys would be doubling down on the AI conversations because of all of the thing. And they said, yeah, that's still pretty much the theme. And I looked around. I was like, no, it's not. I don't hear anybody touting AI other than PTZ cameras getting better with the AI. But outside of that, AI stuff was not the driving factor. So hockey goals are really the only thing I would use an action cam like cameras on. Yeah, I mean, being able to hide them discreetly and then stream them back, you know, but GoPro never really figured that out. I guess you could HDMI it out into an NDI, like a HX wireless device or something like that, but there are better options these days, hardline options that give you a 4K image of the crease or whatever. So unless you don't have a budget, yeah, I could understand that, Chad, but I just don't really get the whole action camera world because the market is so small, and yet they keep driving on, oh, to capture all your action. It's like, quite honestly, what I do when I go outside is I go for a walk with my family. It's not really that action camera driven. And so if the goal is to sell me a camera to capture all my action, well, that's not really what I do. I exercise on a stationary machine. I go for a walk on a treadmill, but I go to the park and have a walk through the woods. Like, that's what my family does. Well, that's not very exciting. And I would never think, ooh, I got to capture this on camera so I can relive it later. No. Show people doing everyday things and why they would want to capture it, and then how they could distill it down into a 3-minute cool little recap video and post it on their socials and then be done with it. That's I think where the majority of this market could be, but instead we're insisting that it be extreme sports, and that doesn't work. We know that model doesn't work, so I would strongly recommend not going down that road. Okay, now today is not really about Insta360 and their announcement. The X5 is a pretty interesting camera. I'll probably pick one up at some point, but time and money will tell. So I don't have a budget for that camera yet, so I'm going to have to save some pennies. But today is actually about BirdDog, and I wore my BirdDog shirt, one of my BirdDog shirts. I have like a dozen shirts, I found out, or maybe 10 different BirdDog shirts. Now they're all different. I have a couple of these ones. I got the Venn diagram from the Eamon days back in 2019. And I have another one. I have a couple of sweaters, like hoodies. Those are great. Oh, and I have one crew neck sweater. So I have a few little swag clothes from my BirdDog years. They weren't days, they were years. But today is about the announcements that BirdDog made and my encounter with them at the NAB show 2025. They, I should just maybe make mention here, Brayton, or if anybody from BirdDog's watching, your website still says join us at NAB. NAB is over. It's no longer happening, and it is in the past. So maybe thanks for joining us at NAB. I don't know, but maybe let Alessandro know that the website needs to be updated. Let's go through the product line that they announced, and I'm just going to go top to bottom from their NAB 2025 site and commentate on the things that I saw. The biggest thing, I think, was their launch of their Mackie Live camera. And I got different impressions from various people about what was the biggest thing, and it was one of the questions that I asked. But when I asked the CEO, okay, I asked Dan, what is the thing you're most excited about this year? He said, I'm pretty excited about the Mackie Live. And he's pretty excited about it because it is a very low cost point. It's about half the price of what used to be the PF 120. And it's designed to be throw it in your bag, use it when you need it, set it up, take it down, real fast. Now, I had some questions about this product when I first showed up, mostly because I said, what is the market for this? I don't quite understand what the market is for Mackie Live, because are you trying to compete with like the Mevo world? Are you trying to compete in the action camera world, which is that dirty word we just talked about? There's a reason why I did that. Are you trying? What's the point here? Because I don't quite understand. And initially, I think when they rolled it off, they were thinking more action camera-y. But then they said they had a lot of interest at the show with the Mackie Live for let me put this over here. They had a lot of interest in the Mackie Live from groups like people who were doing press conferences in places that we got to set up and take down in a hallway real fast. Or lectures or something like that, where I go into a classroom that's not mine. I'm just using it. So I want to set up and take down real quick, and I want to be able to hit go. I'm going to give my 2-hour lecture, and then I'm going to pack up and leave. And so they had a lot of people in the setup takedown world that were interested. Whoops-a-daisy. One moment, please. My clamp gave way. Oh my goodness. All you can do is laugh, folks. All you can do is laugh. Okay. All right, let's try this again. Okay, I figured out why. Because the pivot one was tightened, and you're not supposed to tighten that one when you're using it. Okay, back to where I was. So they had a lot of people that were talking about using this in a quick setup and takedown situation where I need a good quality image. I need it to basically handle itself. I need, battery life so I don't have to worry about power, and I need to be able to run it into vMix real fast, or, the whole Wi-Fi thing. Just need to set up and take down. I'll run my own little Wi-Fi at the conference table and be done with it. And that I think is a legit market where, hey, if you want better image quality than the Mevo world, if you want faster integration, professional production, you're going to record something real quick, set up and take down, you want 2, 3, 4 cameras, let's go. For, you can be up and running for $3,000 with a full camera rig, and you could use their future products here that we'll talk about in a second, or you can use like vMix for that price. So if you had a computer and you want to run vMix and then you want to run a few cameras into it, that's doable. Now, I wasn't really able to give this a stress test, and I no longer have. No, I should say, take this back. I have a stress test environment here in my office, but I didn't have one obviously there on the floor, and so I could just kind of take in what it was that they were talking about and ask questions that I, thought of. Everybody seems to be doing this AI gesture thing. Okay, I don't know how practical it is. If you're a one-man band, perhaps that might be useful. 4K optical zoom captures stunning high-res video with true optical zoom. So what is the optical zoom? We'll look in the tech specs. Wireless and battery. The USB-C webcam connectivity. Now, Dan did say to me, this is my now go-to webcam. And that's cool. I think you should capitalize on that, if it was just me, and include the webcam accessory, that's the monitor mount, in every box. Don't cheap out on users. Include one mount per camera and just call it good, because you're going to encourage people to use these all the time, every day, instead of them sitting in a box waiting for their production to start. It's like, no, I'm going to use this $500 camera every single day, and I'm going to plug it in via USB-C. It comes with a mount already, and so I think you should include that. It's listed under the accessory options, but, I don't know if that's real. NDI SRT enabled, so I'm assuming that you can send an SRT stream somewhere in the world, maybe, or maybe it's supposed to be for cloud integration, but this says NDI. I'm assuming NDI HX3. Am I wrong about that? Of course, I don't know why it's not printed in bold letters on, because this implies, in the BirdDog world, this implies it's full NDI, but I'm certain it's not. So because you're running this over Wi-Fi. So NDI HX3, more than likely. Low latency video over IP networks. HDMI output, that's nice that that's on there. I really wish there was a SDI output as well, but oh well. Wired IP. Optional locking USB-C to Ethernet dongle. That's cool. Okay, so you can... Wait a minute. Where's the backside of this thing? Oh, you have to use the dongle. Interesting. To get it hardlined via network. I would include that too, guys. The accessories should not be individually purchasable. They should come with the camera. And maybe they do. I don't think they do, because it says that they're additional accessories. But anyway, record directly to micro SD. Okay, that's cool. So you can have a backup if something goes on there. Wonder how heat distribution does with something like that, because that will generate some heat. And there's no fans. It's all self-contained. Halo light, okay, so that's your tally is integrated. We kind of come to expect that from BirdDog now. And the multi-camera ready, okay. So pretty cool stuff. And I want to see more about the optical zoom stuff, but we'll get to that in the technical things. Now, For content creators, yeah, everybody's got a podcast now, right? So I understand why you would do that. Not too sure why you're showing this again here on your. We just saw this up here, right? So we don't need to show it again, but maybe you paid a lot of money to have this photo taken. Live for educators. Okay, this was one of the use cases that they drove, they kind of indicated. Plug and play 4K webcam mode. So I like that because not a lot of webcams are 4K, out of the box. I'm assuming that you're still doing the UVC driver for this, but maybe not. And again, you've listed the same things again that you had here and here. So you could really cut down the bulk on this website. But again, more of these things. Mackie Live for business and events. Okay. This I don't think the event space is where these cameras are going to shine. Mostly because I think you're going to want a bigger camera with a bigger lens, bigger optical zoom for events if you're really serious about it. If maybe you're doing funerals and you're gunning that for a small business, this might be a way to get started. But having a PTZ, because people move around. At events, people move. And so you can't have a stationary camera. So it doesn't make a whole lot of sense for that. And then it's a part of this Mackie Studio suite, which we'll talk about in a minute. Okay, so let's go back now to the BirdDog announcements. And the next is this actual Mackie Studio. Now, this seems to be more of a brainchild of perhaps CJ. Pretty cool idea. It looks similar to a Rode Videocaster, if you've ever seen one of those. And it has similar functionality with one caveat, which I brought up at NAB. But the new era of portable live production, it's supposed to be a complementary device that runs with these new Mackie cameras. And particularly, I think the Mackie Lives are the ones they're really pushing for here. And there's probably bundles involved. I'm almost certain there are. But this is just a little control surface. It allows you to preview and program cameras. It all runs off an iPad, so you sync the iPad to it, probably over Wi-Fi, and it spits out a little. And I mean, all of us have iPads. I have an iPad 3 sitting right here underneath my confidence monitor. It would be great if I could use that old iPad to run just my preview on my editing suite. So I don't know how far back I can load apps. iPad 3 is pretty old. I've had that thing for 10 years. So more and more. So this little studio, though, has an interesting concept, basically. Bring in all your NDI sources, assign them to the buttons that you want, and run your show from here. Let's walk through a couple of these items. It is fairly hands-on. I did watch CJ kind of go through and set things up and just show real quick. Here's how you do it. Here's how you do it. Here's how you set these sources. Here's how you set your transitions, map these buttons. All of that was pretty fast paced, easy to understand, would make sense for somebody who just needed to get up and running. Again, funerals, the guy in the casket's not going anywhere. So you do a fixed shot on that, fixed shot on the pulpit where non-lecture style people are going to be speaking, family, friends of the loved one that's passed away. So put it on the podium, put it on the casket, have a wide shot. There are your 3 angles. Bring in your audio, and you're up and running. And I think 3 cameras and a control surface might be a good way to do this because, yeah, that makes sense. The fact that it's NDI enabled and it's wireless. Now, they did have it plugged in via USB-C. Again, I'm a plug in all your things guy, so I would prefer to have everything hardlined. But if I'm in a pinch, I might use wireless. But, if I'm going into a venue and I don't have time to pre-set up before the things start and I need to be up in 30 minutes, fine. But if I have the opportunity to set up a small network and run cables, you better believe I'm going to do that. Now, so the wireless function's nice. Multi-camera switching, low latency. That's the typical claim with NDI HX3 anyways. Run it on your iPad. You can push it live, evidently. So you can stream live to YouTube, Facebook, Vimeo, or record it onto the iPad, which is kind of nice. You're going to have the space to record it. And my iPad, my Pro, that is, I don't know where iPad Pro is, doesn't really have that sort of space. So what about recording to a SSD or something else? Now, you could record, if it's an RTMP stream, you can record direct to Vimeo. If you could record direct to Vimeo, RTMP, and then turn that around as a public link, and that would give you maximum bitrate quality, because YouTube's going to compress it, Facebook's going to compress it, it's going to be crap. So instead, send it to Vimeo over an RTMP stream, and then turn that around as, like, maybe you have a Watch the Funeral website, and you send a link. Well, you can just embed your output link, your RTMP stream, into Vimeo, embed that into your website. And then every time you have a funeral, you just say, go to my website. It's, funeralsarefuntovideo.com, and they can pull it up and see the video. You can tell I don't register a lot of domains because my name imagination is not bad. It's just inappropriate. Yes, the buttons are nice. They're nice. I'm sorry. The buttons have a nice... No! The buttons are a reasonable resistance with tactile push on them. I did actually play with one of these while I was there. That's always been my gripe with Gen 1 keyboard, which we'll talk about here in a minute. But the buttons feel right. They have the right level of resistance, and they have a really good feel to them where you're pushing a button. So that's good stuff. I like, too, that you have a T-bar. I was at the X Keys booth, and I was looking at two different T-bar modules, and one of them was like loosey-goosey, and one of them had some good tension. And I asked them about that. I was like, why is this one super loose? And they're like, I knew they didn't want to say, that one might be old. But that's probably what it was. So how to use it: get a control surface, download the app, connect your camera, stream or record. If it's that easy, that's cool. Now, I know that the iPad app is free, but the control surface is not. So you have to buy the control surface, which is $700 to make use of the app. But Mackie Studio, that's an interesting concept. I can't speak to its resilience yet because we don't know. We haven't seen these in the field. Running gun guys that are in the NDI world, the market for this, I think, is I want to get into like easy setup, easy takedown. I really like the NDI protocol. I know how it works. I already have an NDI rig, or I already have a good conceptual background as to how this works. All right, then you could get into this. If you were a new podcaster, learning the NDI stuff and learning this setup and takedown and learning how to produce it all in one foul swoop, my recommendation here is totally doable. And if you're a teachable person, then it's absolutely doable. But my recommendation here is BirdDog needs to make it exceptionally accessible. They need to show the heartache and the grief that it takes to get set up in a traditional manner, and then show how simple and easy their solution is. That piece of marketing material will go a long way in helping the consumer understand this is why you want to do this. Because right now, this hides behind the complexity of NDI and networking. And instead, you want to say, no, it's way easier than what you're planning on doing. And here's why it's so easy. Show the complexity of what's involved in setting up a traditional run and gun studio, all the wires, show all of the difficulties, show how it all, like setting it all. Okay, now we got to get into the RTMP settings and figure all that out. And no, it's so simple on the control surface. And here's why you want to spend $3,000 and be up and running next week. Okay. So there it is. Now this says order now. You know what I'm going to do? Whoa. 0 units in stock at your major distributor. Now, are Broadfield still your major distributor? Because they never seem to have anything in stock. But have these landed in the U.S. yet? Ugh. I know we have been saying, for some reason, within 6 weeks. We shouldn't be saying that anymore because we learned our lesson with the X1, right? But NAB, when was NAB? The 6th, right? So it has it's been almost 3 full weeks since NAB. This needs to say hundreds in stock, like by the weekend. Under promise, over deliver. Let's erase the feelings that our client base has had about deliverability, and let's under promise and over deliver. So we're going to under promise 6 weeks they'll be in store, and over deliver they're there within 2.5 weeks or 3 weeks. So there's that. Okay, let me cut over here and follow up on the chat real quick. Hey, if you don't laugh, you cry. It's true. You have to roll with it, especially when your stuff falls apart. It's all good. It's all good. Yo, what's up, B. Brooklyn Blade? I followed you. Hey, thanks. Thanks for following me over on Twitch. I am on Twitch still, guys. So feel free to follow. Always appreciate that. Chad says, hey, would that be for something like the burgeoning podcast industry? I butchered that. Yes, exactly. Like everybody's got a podcast. The problem is there's so many voices now that nobody's listening. So, and you can tell that because even I'm on here. Why am I on here? Nobody knows. Hey, you play any game? I do play games, just not during this show, but definitely for sure. Mackie PoE adapter is $50. Yeah, and I don't think though that it's required. Oh, because they make PoE adapters, you know, TP-Link and whatever make PoE adapters. So that's an interesting thought though. Let's just go discover Mackie live. I just want you to see this here. Oh, that website. If we go Mackie live. Let's take a peek at the specs real quick. H.264 is the compression. Okay. Optional PoE adapter sold separately. Here's what I remember about BirdDog. We never made money on the accessories, so why are we trying to sell them? Don't do that. Put them in every box. Make it a value asset, not an attempt to make additional money. But that's just me. Just my preference. Here they are. Here are the accessories. Monitor mount. It's a little plastic mount, guys. Just give that away. Collapsible travel tripod. Those things are actually worth something, and many companies make these for sale, so I understand you not giving that away. It would be a huge bonus if you did, but I don't see that as necessarily something everybody wants. But this encourages, the monitor mount encourages people to use the camera all the time as their webcam, right? And this encourages people to use it as a PoE device, which would encourage people to have better networks than the crap ones they normally do. So those two items would be a huge value add if you just included them. I can't imagine that you're making a ton of money off of them. And it would be better to give those away, or if you can't afford to give them away, give them away as like bonus swag. So if somebody buys 3 cameras and a control service, give them the accessories. Or if they have to send in the Mackie Live for support, return it with all the accessories, you know, as like, hey, thanks for being a customer, here are all the accessories for this product. Man, that would be great. That would really add value to that. So, anyways, there's none in stock, which is a real bummer. Oh, Jeremy, what's going on? How are you, man? Good to see you. Thanks for coming by. Hey, I saw my mug on your channel and was a little thrown off. Yes, I do use it, usually just during this show to keep my coffee hot and my creamer curdled, because I talk for longer than an hour and my coffee goes cold every time I use it. So there we go. Hey, it appears that the network adapter is not included in the box. Agreed. That is what I assumed. We're in talks with Dan to see how Mackie Studio could work with Resi. Oh, right on. RTMP stream, right? Does it send an RTMP stream out? Anybody want to chime in here on this? Tech specs. Let's find out. Mackie Studio app. RTMP. There you go. So that seems like it already works with Resi. You can tell that they're buttons by the way that they are. Oh, that's great. I just want people to know how neat nature is, instead of me and Rodney just talking about it. What's this phrase? Oh my gosh. I got to figure out, where are my preferences here? Audio output, computer output 7 and 8. Why isn't this working? Where is my... Hang on. Oh, that's why. Here we go.
How neat is that?
I hope you heard that. Here we go. I'm going to listen. What is going on, Angus? Yes, sound effects are back. Let's go. What's happening, Angus? Good to see you, man. Resi would be looking for HDMI out into a Resi encoder. Oh, okay. Hey, by the way, you need some good sound bites for when we do our show. Oh, not to worry, my friend. The sound bites are back.
Excellent.
Don't worry about that. And I have a whole Stream Deck page full of them. So we're up and running. Yeah, that was something that I spent a little bit of time on. Happy it's done. Hey, what's the Bluetooth function? Oh, that's for Mackie Studio. Okay. All right. So I'm bummed that these are not in stock, because wouldn't that have been so cool to make an announcement and say, and you can buy it today? But apparently it's coming out within 6 weeks, which is code for... All right. So on to the next thing, which is BirdDog Connect, which after I spoke with several people, both in and outside the company, it is confirmed that this is a rebrand of BirdDog Cloud. It actually looks very similar to BirdDog Cloud. Okay, whoa, almost pushed my coffee over. It's very similar to BirdDog Cloud, does the same ideas. This setup is something that I'm looking for, but I'm needing to be convinced that NDI over cloud is the right solution versus like a Blackmagic encoder decoder, because that's a one-time purchase. So here's the thing. At NAB, Blackmagic rebranded their web presenter as an encoder and a decoder. And what that does is it encodes. You can actually be pretty ingenious with it, but at the very basic, what you do is you encode it and send it across to your studio decode, and you do it over Blackmagic Cloud, which is free. Okay. Each of the decoders or encoders you buy the ones that you want, they're $750. So for $1,600, $1,700, somewhere in there after tax and tariffs, I just got to get internet to my remote location, and I don't need a reoccurring cost monthly, yearly from something like BirdDog Cloud. And it encodes it into SRT and decodes it out of SRT back into SDI, which is what I want. So explain to me the use case again for Connect if I'm the customer. Because if I just need one or two sources, I'll just buy another encoder decoder if I need two sources and do the same thing. And my upfront cost is just a one-time purchasable hardware device that is over and done with. And so although I'm sure the AWAS service that's running cloud is the whole premise of it is built on subscriptions, I actually think people will gravitate towards buying a device that does it automatically for them. And what's interesting about the Blackmagic version of it is you can import an XML file into the decoder, and when it sees the encoder come online, it automatically makes the connection. So the setup and takedown is one time, basically, unless you want to change it. And if you don't want to do that, you just log into your Blackmagic Cloud web interface and you make the connections manually, just like you do on Connect. Except the difference is the cloud connections don't cost me anything for Blackmagic, but they do for BirdDog Cloud. So explain to me again, in this market now, how the subscription model works when there are options out there for SDI in to SRT, out SRT into SDI conversion for $1,500. Like, done. Do I dare click on pricing? Let's say we're going to pay annually, okay? Let's say we're going to do that. $270 a month for 10 connections, okay? Let's just say 3, because that's where I would be, right? $134 a month. Whoops. 134. That's more than an encoder decoder. It's $1,600. So it's the same price, but after 1 year, now I'm ahead of the game with buying the Blackmagic ones. I don't understand, mostly because there are some other bells and whistles here, multi-viewers, presenter mode. Yep, there are a few other things that go on here that are fine. Blackmagic SDI capture. Oh, maybe you guys take in SDI or the encoders. However, I can walk away with no after 1 year. After 1 year. So I'm a little confused by that idea. Maybe it's because I've got a full NDI. I don't have any Blackmagic stuff, and I'm just NDI all the way through, and I need a solution. Okay. But I could still do the Blackmagic thing even in an NDI environment, just set up an encoder and a decoder and just have those two things running independently. I don't need to be a whole Blackmagic studio in order for that to work. And it's the same price. And for Connect, I don't get any encoders or decoders. So I have to also buy things to generate the NDI sources. Now, it's assuming that you probably have an NDI camera. So you want to bring that NDI source across, which means you don't need an encoder. It can just come across on the computer. And I'm assuming we have computers here. I'm not factoring that in. Bring it across on the computer. But here's the other problem. I don't plan to use these encoder decoders every month. And so if I buy an annual plan, I'm throwing money away, which means I need to go to a monthly plan and turn it off and on again when I need it, right? Now, that could save me significant money and extend that price tag out to a couple of years. If I'm using it 6 months out of the year, that's a 2-month target window, not at $150, mind you, but it's a 2-month window or 2-year window, sorry. So you get multi-viewers, you get presenter mode, you get a recording engine. Okay, all that's fine. PTZ control, I actually don't think that this is a selling factor because I can remote into the computer that I have in the remote location and just control it in studio monitor. So I don't need that for my NDI PTZ control. Now, I know that it might connect over the keyboard or something like that. That's cool. But again, not necessary. I can just do this remotely. And honestly, I'm not going to run PTZ commands over the internet live. I'm going to have them presets because then I know my targets. So, I don't know. I know this rebrand is a way to simplify the global stuff, which is really cool. You don't have to ship anything. You just install it on the computers that are over there. And cloud has always been, I think, an underutilized service that BirdDog has. It looks exactly like BirdDog Cloud used to. It's purple now, but looks just like it. One of these days, they're going to get direct cloud integration with their cameras. Maybe they already have it. The medical industry is the one that I think has potential for money. They were explaining this as like the Remedy side of the business. Remedy is a service that basically they can't be in operating rooms, but they can be in like theaters, you know, that allow electronics and stuff like this. And I was talking to my previous report, who was Jamie, and he's a mountain of a man, and was a good boss. And I just said, like, so tell me a little bit more about Remedy and how that's going. So he was saying, well, we can't get into sanitary rooms. And I said, what about creating like a bubble that you put over the camera? So you install it in the rooms, put a bubble over the camera so that nothing can get in, nothing can get out, but you can see through it. Would that be permitted? And then, you know, Wi-Fi and everything, so you don't have to run cables and yada yada. And he said, yeah, we're looking into that, and we have some instances where that's okay. So, but hospitals are bringing in doctors from all over the world now, instead of, I go to, you know, the Toronto hospital because they have the best doctors. It's like, that's not necessary anymore. You can go to any hospital, you connect to them over a conference call, and your doctor from Toronto, while you're in Tennessee, can be a part of that conversation. So that's kind of cool. And they can watch, you know, diagnosis, you can share files, you can do all that stuff. So there is a part of this market with Remedy that I think is the corporate business side of BirdDog that is not sales retail, and that needs to be emphasized. That needs to become a part of the working, constant revenue generating part of the business in order to make some of these other riskier ideas that we want to try and implement possible, where the risk becomes less a priority. So, you know, there's potential. It's hard for me to get on board with a subscription when I can do it for free. I think that's been like, even if the quality is slightly less, but the price is significantly lower. Yeah, that's now for ESPN, that may not be okay. Although when I talk to, you know, news broadcast organizations, they're all like, yeah, we're not worried about quality video yet because the world isn't there yet. So, you know, it blows my mind, but still, that's still happening. Anyways, BirdDog Connect was on display, and they had a whole wall of it. That was really cool. And they had a wall for Remedy, and that was fun to kind of watch. The 4K converters, I think they had a firmware update right before the show or right after the show. I can't remember, but they did have these on display. It's nice to see they're still up and running and working on them. I think they've redone the entire back end of these so that they'll be the HX3 compliancy stuff. It's a different code than we used to have with the original. So this device, although it's the same device, is kind of, the brains are totally different. So it's cool that they now do 4K 60 over NDI HX3. That's kind of a neat idea. And all right, let me check up on the chat here real quick before we keep going. 1 second. We heard it. Oh, good. The sound effects. That's great. Hey, John, what's going on, Daniel? Good to see you. Hey, which mixer are you using? A Behringer or a Midas? I am using an X32, so that's a Behringer core. So it's a 1U rack-mounted unit. Unfortunately, they don't make them anymore, but it is amazing. And you probably noticed that I had my X-Keys soundboard up. It's great. I use it all the time. I love it. There are a lot of things going on here with audio, but my mixer is an X32 core. If you can find them on like reverb.com or eBay or something like that, it's good stuff. And it only takes up 1 U in your rack, which is great. Now, there are no inputs, which is, I would rather get an X32 rack mount unit, which is a 3 or 4 U unit. But, you know, I don't really need that. I would like it, but it also has physical inputs on the back, so that would have been nice to have. This one is just a straight up no inputs. You can buy a stage box, which we'll talk over AES to it, but not in my configuration as of right now. I will need one eventually. I've been asking for a manned BirdDog camera forever. A manned BirdDog camera? You might be asking for that forever. Indefinitely. Why buy one time when you can get MRR for the same thing? Yeah, I don't know. Far end camera control, does Blackmagic offer that? I mean, if it's an NDI camera, I can do it remotely. I don't need anything BirdDog to do that. It's called Studio Monitor, which is free. I believe they do now. Oh, there you go. Jeremy is perplexed. Yes, the new Blackmagic Cloud does camera control, though through the pairing of their new encoder decoder devices for $7 a month per decoder. You can also do a fair bit of vMix call connections, vMix to vMix. Oh, that's true. Pricing may vary. See store for details. There's also an NDI bridge option. Yeah, I haven't had a lot of experience with NDI bridge because, honestly, I had cloud at my disposal. But there might be something that I have to investigate. In response to Hive? I don't know what you mean by that. ESPN Plus doesn't care. They accept one camera feed for some sports. Yeah. ESPN was just one of the networks, but like CNN, MSNBC, Fox, they were all there. And the last time I talked to those executives was in 2022. And they were like, we mostly upscale from 720. Which is wild. But anyway. Okay. So back to it here. Let's continue our saunter through the BirdDog announcements. All right. This I think is probably their, if not one of their biggest announcements from NAB. And it is the announcement of the new keyboard. Now, this is Gen 2 and is not built from the manufacturer that must not be named. It is sourced elsewhere. It is, I don't believe their own OEM because I think I've seen a similar design somewhere else, but it is BirdDog brains, which is what matters the most. So this screen is a nice crisp screen. Time will tell how resilient it is, but it has a lot of versatility to it that makes running your cameras without the need of a computer far more realistic. In Gen 1, you might remember, they had an option to NDI out whatever the keyboard was doing. And you could use it in two ways. One, you could use it as a way to switch cameras live, on your iMac or whatever. Just send it that and, you control it all live. Or you could use it in Studio Monitor and watch. But there was no LCD screen on the old one, right? So you could watch in Studio Monitor and make your adjustments and then call other cameras and make your adjustments while the production guy is going from preview to program live. So that's kind of cool. That now you don't need any of that. You can have everything you want directly on your screen, and you can even do a multi-viewer. You can do 4 cameras at once, which is pretty cool. You can enable or disable tally, which is kind of neat. And it gives you a lot of actual feedback. Speaking of feedback, the buttons on this are corrected. You remember on Gen 1, if you ever used one of those buttons were kind of mushy? This keyboard, from the mouth of the leader himself, said each of these buttons is an individual button on the board. And when you click it, it actually has a tactile click to it. And so it's not nice. It's a great improvement. It is nice, but it's better than nice. It's better than bad. It's good. So when you click each of the buttons, they actually make a responsive click, so you know you're pressing them, and they light up accordingly and everything too, so that it looks pretty. The menu is now fully accessible. The web UI is pretty much fully accessible on the screen. You still have to use the dials to change. It's not a touch screen, but that's a fairly significant cost savings from what I understand. But it does allow you to go through the web menu quickly, find out what cameras are talking. If you're having any errors with any of them, it'll show, whether or not they're on the network. Adding devices to the camera is fairly simple. Like, it's all on screen. You don't have to, pat your head and rub your stomach to make it all happen. You can simply just go through the menus and click the appropriate buttons. So it is far more user attentive in terms of how much time they have spent thinking about how do people actually use the product, instead of, you just set it all up on the web UI. Well, that's all well and good unless you don't have a web UI at your event. So this is the way that this keyboard probably should have initially been thought of, and you don't learn that until you really make some mistakes. And so the Gen 2 is really nice for that. The joystick has the same feel as a previous one, although I think the tension is a little higher, which gives your movement of cameras better. And the superfine mode now makes sense. When you switch it to superfine, and CJ was sure to show this to me, when you switch it to superfine and then you go full over, it is a fine movement. And so I like that a lot. I think that's a great point to emphasize. And, we should definitely be doing more of that inside the marketing. So this little on screen, there is the four camera look. It's really useful, and it allows your camera op to manipulate multiple cameras and not have to need too much else to make it work. So well thought out. The buttons are right. The button on the top of the joystick actually does something, which is great. There aren't a lot of wasted buttons on this device compared to other devices that I've used. Looking at you, Blackmagic TV studio controllers, where there's just a bunch of wasted, pointless buttons, kind of like an analog soundboard. You remember how we had like a 40-channel board and we had knobs for every single channel for every single frequency? Oh, just make it digital. Make it pages, select the channel you want, manipulate the same knobs. That's how it's done. Well, they've condensed a lot of that here into the LCD screen and then really made some purposeful, useful buttons on this board. One weird thing that they still include is the RS-422 and the serial port. If people are looking at this keyboard, they're not looking at it to use 422. Stop. That's always been a headache for everybody. That just needs to be done away with. Just blank that port, man. Take it off the motherboard. It's pointless. It's portless. All right. So honestly, I'm really thrilled with the keyboard. I think it has high potential as long as it continues to be supported and it can put up with the beating that it's going to take in these production environments. I think I think this is finally the NDI keyboard we were kind of all thinking we were going to get first time around. And now this keyboard is well done. So hats off to Frink and CJ for making sure that this thing is right before it went to launch. I did see it, physically saw it. So you know what I'm going to do next? There it is. Currently in stock. Let's go. Good job, boys. Good job. That is the outcome that I want to see right there. And $1,300, if you're an NDI all the way through, NDI BirdDog camera especially all the way through, this is the keyboard. This is the one that you want to give your production guy, and he'll be happy, I think, with that. So, well done. In stock. Okay, Max. I did see Max on the stand. First and foremost, comes in an array of colors. It's kind of like the iPhone SE. Remember when they announced like, oh, you can get it in a bunch of different colors. But the camera was, the iPhone SE kind of was stripped down a little bit. I'm not too sure. Meet Max. I'm going to read this to you, and I want to be crystal clear as to why it's called Max. Introducing Max, the PTZ camera designed to bridge the gap between everyday webcam and full-blown production cameras. Whether you're looking to enhance your video meetings or level up your professional broadcast, Max delivers stunning performance and versatility in a beautifully packaged design package with a best-in-class wide-range lens, perfect for rooms of any size. Really? Any size? Any is a big word, my friend. So let's check out some more here. Can be used as webcam or a production studio. I see that we have a PoE port, so just 15 watts. Is that what I'm seeing? HDMI out, USB-C 3.0 for its USB-C for video. RS-232. All right. I maybe there's a reason that people want that, but I worked for BirdDog for 6 years. I never heard anybody say, oh, man, I'm so thankful they have 232 ports on them. Never did I ever hear that. And anyway, and I talk to customers daily. Elegant design. Okay, so it blends into your teal green boardroom. Affordable excellence. Max's most impressive qualities is the price to performance ratio by offering high-end features like NDI HDMI outputs, eco-friendly materials, professional grade design, competitive price. Max makes premium video production, accessible to all. You don't have to choose between a basic webcam or a costly production camera. Max gives you both. It's cute. I like the all black version. That's cool. Seamless integration with Pod. Why would you need that? Oh, because Pod is output. Okay, got it. You know what would be really cool? Is if for every 3 Maxes you bought, you got a free Pod. Right? Because if it works seamless with it. But again, I'm cutting your profits. So, dual network output. What? Max combines HX SRT streams, on-prem and remote connectivity, ensuring ultimate flexibility in both streaming setups and distribution. The NDI ecosystem, blah, 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 blah. Baseband. Okay. Color matrix included. PTZ control with your iPhone. All right, that's kind of fun. You can mount an iPad on the wall. And does it have like a follow option? I don't see anything here. Smooth PTZ motion, flexible power. Did I go over it by accident? Let's look at the serial webcam, API 2.0, BirdDog apps, dual mode, ecosystem. Okay, it's not there. Does it have a built-in like AI follow me around the room situation? Maybe not. Tech specs. Okay, and it's $900. So it's under $1,000. That's a good space for this camera to be. 12 times optical. I like that. That's okay. It's not like, whoa, got to get it. But it's nice to have. HX3. What? 10100. Okay. 13 watts, so it is just PoE. Interesting. Okay. I mean, I know HX3 is not over 100 megs, but this is very 1995. So, whatevs. All right. So, for under $1,000, you can get a webcam. A PTZ webcam. So, there you go. PTZ Optics Hive Solutions. Oh, I see. Those buttons.
How neat is that?
Love it. Angus, woo. It is tempting. I produce videos in some mighty big rooms. Hey, I did a production with a broadcast truck last fall. We were using 500 by 100 foot space. That was less than 1/10 of the actual size of the room. Wow. I mean, 12 times optical is no joke. If you placed it at the back of the room, you might get full body or maybe like a mid shot. You really need like a 20 or 30 times lens to really do like elbows up, your standard lecture style, in close, personal. But 12 is a good place to start. Is Pod really out though? I still haven't gotten mine. No full fat NDI. Must not need gigabit. Correct. It is not full NDI, and so that means it will never be full NDI, by the way, because it wouldn't be able to handle it. The NIC card's too small. Well, that question about Pod, why don't we ask? Discovering Pod. Now, I saw this device at NAB, and I saw it running. I didn't have a chance to really force it, but I did see it running. And they do physically exist. Kind of a cool idea that you can run this off a PoE. I suspect that there might be another generation of this product coming, or maybe a different version of it. But 4 sources, you link them here, and you just use those as your NDI input. So it turns your NDI sources on your network via network cable into USB sources. Really cool, simple design. Runs over API commands if you need to. Looks nice and clean. Is it real? Well, let's find out. BirdDog Pod. Oh boy, still coming soon. So, I know why you want to show it at the trade show. But at this point, this needs to be out, right? Like if you're going to show it again, don't put it on the stand unless it's ready for ship. Because people will have heard about this. And honestly, it needs to just happen now. Like we've talked about it, it just needs to happen. And so hopefully it's coming. There's no announcement here. Who is this? Get out of here, guy. There is no announcement yet as to when it's expected, because we know the website's wrong. Yeah, sorry, everybody. So new item coming soon. And here it says shipping March 2025. Really? Really? I don't think so. Somehow I don't think so. So if anyone from BirdDog's watching, please send an email to Alessandro. Say, please update the website for the pod. It says shipping in March of 2025. The shipping date should probably be written down somewhere and put in a reminder, and then when that shipping date doesn't happen, it needs to be updated. That would look better than us discovering it. Yeah, 30 times zoom on my P200 is irreplaceable. You know what? I've heard that a lot, that people love their P200s because of the 30 times zoom, and they don't want to go to the next thing until another 30 times camera is out. I feel like they're targeting the podcast market with these. Yeah, maybe. I think it's supposed to be more corporate America, where you can, the whole technical side is all back-end NDI, and you have your whole NDI workflow going over fiber up across multiple switches, and then you put these down, and you just tell your CEO, just plug in your computer here, and click number 1, or click whatever source you want, and your cameras are numbered 1, 2, 3, 4, and you just click on the number you want, and that's your webcam. I think because, and the reason why I think this is, boardroom corporation NDI integration needs to be as stupidly simple as possible. It's not because people are stupid. It's because they don't. The buttons need to say on or off. They don't need to say NDI source 15. Don't do that. Don't do that. It needs to say on or off, and people will understand. But if it says NDI source 3, what is that? You know, ask any CEO of a major company, hey, do you know what an NDI source is? No. So this integration is to take all that technical talk, turn it into big numbers. 1, 2, 3, and 4. Which camera source do you want? You know, and even that might be a little too much, but just have it defaulted at 1. And when you plug in your camera or when you plug in your computer in the boardroom, it's always going to show you our beautiful new NDI camera that's sitting here under the board. So that's what that is. Hey, good morning, Zach. Hopefully you're doing well. So pod is not available yet, and that's a big bummer. The next gen of cameras, the X series, these were there, but they were not the emphasis of the show. Mackie Ultra was also there, but the Mackie Live was kind of in charge of the spotlight. And the converters, some of them were there. The Play was there running. So again, though, was not the major spotlight. I didn't hear anything about Central 2.0. I didn't see anything about the PTZ controller. I didn't hear anybody tell me about API. I did talk to Jamie about Remedy. We talked about that a little bit. And that's the end of their announcement page. So big deals going on at BirdDog. Big announcements, upgrades to things, a couple of new products, a couple that are out. The keyboard is out and is available for purchase, and that's what I like to see from this company, because we're kind of done with announcing things and them not being available. Instead, got to get into the habit of them being available when you announce them. And that, I think, will turn around the perception of what the company is, oh, they announce their dreams, but they never come through on them. Instead of, here's a dream we had, and now it's real. And that sort of thing is, oh, like they're serious. Let's take, for example, like we were talking about earlier, the Insta360 X5 launch. It's available for purchase today. Like, it's ready to go. They announced it on Tuesday. It was ready on Tuesday. People already had ordered it on that day. And so that's the way that the product should be launched, is not within 6 weeks, not coming soon, none of that. When we say something publicly about it, it's at our distributors going. Even the excuse of, oh, it's in transit to our distributors. I don't buy that, because it's not sitting at a port somewhere. It probably isn't going through customs. It probably isn't having tariff issues. It's probably not shipped. And so that's the perception that customers have, is when you tell me there's a delay, it means it didn't actually get on the ship yet. And because as soon as the company is done manufacturing them, here's how it goes on the back end. They're interested in getting paid, and so they ship them right away. They don't delay at all. And they want you to buy them. They want the company, the manufacturer, to pay for them. And so they ship them right away so that you'll order another round, and that the relationship will be profitable for them. So when you don't ship, when you say it's going to ship in 6 weeks, and then it's been 2 months, 3 months, 6 months, that's not a breakdown in the manufacturing line. It's maybe like problems you didn't expect to encounter, maybe. But all of this would be mitigated if we announce it when it's sitting in the hands of the distributor. Hands down. There's no way around that. And that way you repair whatever sort of hesitation people have about pre-ordering anything. You don't need to pre-order it. It's shipping today. And you can go to the B&H website and order it right now. Because what B&H does is they just ping the quantity at Broadfield. And then they order one from Broadfield and ship it out. That's all they do. So if it's available at B&H, it's available at the distributors, and, it's good to go. So there you go. All right. Morning, Angus. Doing nicely. Nice and sunny here. Hit 70 degrees in Seattle. The X5 is pretty tempting. I'm going to see what I can do about getting my hands on one of them to kind of test drive. I have a lot of experience with BirdDog cameras and being able to assess them quickly and be able to find like what I really like and what I don't like. And so we'll see what we come up with. I am wearing my BirdDog shirt today. It is purely just swag now that I got from the company. I don't represent them in any way, and I'm not a part of the company. So these are just my opinions. But I think that The potential for BirdDog is really high. It's really high. And I've actually always felt that way. That there are things that this company does that could be different, that could really excel them in the market to another level, to the way that instead of the way the industry does it, to set a new standard. The line that I used to use back at BirdDog was, we need to control the narrative about our company. Instead of letting people assume how it is we conduct ourselves, do business. And actually, I think the reason why I felt this way is I think the company actually started off on that foot. We told people the BirdDog story. And later on in my career with BirdDog, the narrative kind of changed to, well, this is what the industry expects. And I guess I always assumed, no, we tell the industry what to expect because it's our company. It's what we are doing. And we're the ones that make this real all the time. And so if, for example, the market's expectations are the product should work out of the box the first time I use it, well, we either need to change the way we operate or we need to tell them more about, no, we're more of like a Kickstarter, if that's the way we want to go. Now, if we want our products to work out of the box when our customers buy them, well, that's not a perception problem. That's an us problem. And, we got to get down to fixing it. Now, from what I see, the next level of these products are closer to that goal than they've ever been before. Gosh, I remember when the keyboard launched, Gen 1. I still got a little PTSD from that. I remember when the P100 launched. That was rough. It was a rough go because it just wasn't ready. It just hadn't been tested. We honestly didn't have the bandwidth to do the testing that the camera required back then. Now they do now. And they have like several companies that at least they were working with that would test things for them. They put like heat stress tests on them. They do a bunch of stuff. And if Dave is still at the company, I think he is, man, that guy, he's worth every penny they pay him because he would brutalize those products and come back and say, not good enough. And anybody that did that, it would frustrate us, the company. It would frustrate, as a whole, it would be frustrating. But man, those findings were so important to making sure the customer had the right experience. And so I hope Dave's still there because he's a good dude. If the X4 had a removable battery for flying on airplanes, that would have been my choice. I would agree when things get announced and they give a month or a date, they should be ready to go. So this is a philosophy that I stole that I use even now. I watched it actually happen. We ordered something from B&H the other day. And the philosophy is under-promise and over-deliver. It's not as exciting as over-promising and trying to deliver. Okay, it's just not as exciting. However, it goes back to a fundamental principle, an axiom in life that there's a, to sort of go all Christian on you here, there's a Christian principle, store up your treasures in heaven. What's being taught there is your reputation is the thing that will last beyond your money. You know that phrasing, people don't remember what you said, they remember the way that you made them feel? That is has a lot of layers to it. But the point being is, man, if I open a product, let's take me buying the X5. I buy the X5 at launch date and it shows up. I'm sorry, the Insta360 X5. Boy, I got to be specific. If I show up and I buy the Insta360, the brand new X5 camera, and I turn it on and half of the features are coming soon, or if I'm required to do like 6 firmware updates to get it fixed so that I can use it out of the box, man, I may not say things. I may not go online. I may not write a review. I might be frustrated enough to do that. But I'm going to remember, man, I'm not going to buy these when they first come out because they are buggy. The thing you have to worry about the most in a company, more than revenue, more than anything, is your reputation. Because your reputation is not going to sell the current product. The reputation is going to sell the future product. When we started at BirdDog, we had a reputation. The studio, the original studio encoder, had its growing pains. But man, it was rock solid. After 3.0, so when we went to, I forget what firmware it was now. That's okay. I don't need to remember. We got past the 2.0 world, and that's where I started, when Studio was in 2.0, and it was a gray and green background. When we went to the black and green background, which was the 3.0 update, that thing just started working and never died. It was a built-in heatsink. It was so cool. Built-in heatsink, did HDMI encode or SDI encode or HDMI or SDI decode. It had one function. You set it up, you got it to it. Now, they promised, lesson learned here, they promised to do encode decode. That never happened and never did. That's okay. I mean, it's not okay because people bought them under the premise that that would be a coming soon feature, and it never happened. We tried, we couldn't do it. But that studio, as an encoder or a decoder, man, that thing just worked forever. So much so that I saw one on a stand running a camera at this year's NAB. 2025. That product has been end of life, end of support for 2-3 years. It's still running on the stand. Still running. People don't remember the way or the things that you said. They're not going to remember the help desk tickets. They're not going to remember the solutions that you provided in a pinch. They're honestly not going to remember that. What they're going to remember is the way they felt when they powered up your device and how it worked. So much of support is that way, right? People reach out. People have had so many bad experiences with crappy support systems in the world that they're reluctant to reach out one more time to support. Even if your support group is built up of men and women of the caliber that I hired at BirdDog and who are still there, by the way. Seriously, the best support group I have ever had the chance to be a part of. And, you know, what can I say? I built it. So I had a hand in choosing the people that came along. But seriously, like some of the greatest, they wouldn't sugarcoat. They wouldn't sugarcoat the immensity of the problems they were having. But we worked together to find solutions, and we worked together to support each other as we tried to support the customer. And so we got pretty good. And I honestly think the best support department in up until the time I left, I don't know anymore because I haven't needed to run a support department for them. Up until the time I left, I felt like we were the best in the NDI world. We were the best support department there was. Better than NDI, better than New Tech. New Tech would get back to you pretty quick, but then they'd pass you off to somebody and get in their queue. And then it took a week for them to get back to you. Like, good luck trying to get NDI support out of stinking Panasonic. They just take forever. So it just wasn't going to happen. BirdDog was on it. We had a system where we would get the tickets in. We wouldn't just pass it off to people that would never respond. We would, right at the end, shout out to Senseless. That dude would follow up on, put things on hold and follow up regularly with customers. Hey, we've got this on hold. Here's where we're at. We're really sorry we don't have a solution yet. I'm hounding my engineers to try and find you thing. We have a meeting on Thursday. I'll try and update you on Friday. Like, it wasn't a canned response. The dude really was trying. And you don't get that at most places. And so, yeah, it was a hyper focus on people are not going to remember the support tickets. They're not going to remember the solutions. They're not going to remember the firmware. And quite honestly, in support, you're going for a neutral outcome. because you're not going to get a positive outcome. Somebody's had problems. They're coming to you frustrated. The best you're probably going to get is a neutral outcome where they don't want to kill you. They don't want to return the product. They're not thrilled that they had to come to you, but they're good now that it's finished up. The likely outcome is that they're frustrated. You're not going to be able to fix it. No one's going to be able to help you with it, and the customer's going to go away frustrated. So neutral or bad outcome. You try and get a neutral or positive outcome, but those are more rare. And so you're shooting for neutral. You don't want the customer to leave. You don't want them to lose faith in the product, in the company, in the people that designed it. You want them to be excited about using your product. You want it to work for them. And so you're trying to get to that goal. And if you get a neutral outcome, that's a win. That's a good day. And that, I used to tell my tech agents, if that's not enough for you, because you're not going to get a kind email saying, thank you so much, or we love you guys, or what, we're not going to get any of that stuff. So if you need that, support's not for you. But I'm going to support you, and I'm going to try and tell you that you're doing a good job, and I'm going to try and help you along the way. But if that's not enough, this isn't going to work. So the reputation of the company is really at stake. It's not really about the next exciting product line. It's not really about how hyped the leadership is. It's not about that. It's about reputation recovery and about moving forward and rebuilding your reputation. And the number one thing that you can do is deliver on your promises. And the best way to do that is to have low expectations and over-deliver. So don't announce it until it's in the hands of Broadfield Distributing. And then the day that they open the boxes and they put them on their shelves, green light, you'd have Broadfield email you. They are here. We opened one. It's working. Green light. Our distributor has it. Full gas. Announce. Get it going. Off we go. That's the way that you're going to dig yourself out of this hole, because it's the reputation that's going to bleed the bank accounts. It's not the lack of sales. The lack of sales is pointing to a bigger problem. And I don't know if they have lack of sales or not, by the way. I don't know anything. I'm just saying the lack of sales is the symptom. It's not the problem. The problem is nobody trusts you anymore. That's the issue. I gave that entire speech and only one of you said something. Just kidding. Some people call that forecasting, and we all know how the weather goes. That's great. Yeah, that's great. In this industry, I learned you can't play the short game, because you win the battle, but you lose the war. And people, the killer is, I'm just going to go back to Canon, because at least I know when they launch a product, they're going to have a huge support system that's going to be able to handle every problem I have. And it's like, well, good luck getting any help out of them. It's like, yeah, but the product is probably just going to work. Like, that's really the killer, is you have to get to a place. I think, by the way, that they've put this into practice by hiring CJ and Frink as their product managers. Shout out to these two guys. CJ and Frink are the type of guys that are not going to let something go to launch that isn't ready. How we launch is still up for debate, but they're not going to let it go to launch with flaws that I know of. That, like, of their personalities, I don't see them letting that slide, because they're on the back end of those complaints. Hey, I bought this keyboard and it doesn't work. They get those tickets. They're the ones that have to answer to that. They're the ones that have to hound engineering to get it fixed. They're the ones that have to make the emails to the OEMs. They have to manage. It's their product. They own it in the stance of, I invented this, or I championed this product, and I'm responsible for the thing where it's not performing. First of all, bravo to BirdDog for providing accountability in that level to the product line. But now the yin and the yang, BirdDog has provided the accountability for the product. And the other side of that conversation is you have product managers who are responsible for that product. And now there's this tension, this push back and forth. I want to announce the product and get it to market. But the engineers are accountable to the product managers who are making sure that the promises we put on paper and announced are actually going to happen. So Bravo. I see glimmers of accountability in that way, which is great. Now the execution of that accountability is the next piece that I'm interested in, because we announced a bunch of products at NAB, and I only see one of them. We announced 3 products, and I only see one of them that's available today. And it's been 2.5 weeks since NAB. So let's just say 2 weeks, because the show ended on Wednesday or Thursday. So it's Thursday today. It's been a couple of weeks. I enjoy it when you did live support work, when you did it from home, like working on my BirdDog Mini. Well, time to head out on campus and work. We'll chat with you later. See you later, Zach. Yes, the original concept was, hey, watch me take this product apart and test it and see how it works. Yeah, that was fun. Those are the good old days, right? I definitely have trust issues now. Just with BirdDog, right? Otherwise, it's getting a little too personal, and I strongly encourage you to talk to somebody about that, but not here. I can't handle that. I am unqualified to handle your other personal issues. Now, trust issues with product lines, hey, I can sympathize with that. I can sympathize. My coffee is all gone. Brought to you today by Amber Mugs. Keep your coffee hot and your creamer curdled. Today, my creamer did not curdle because I drank it fast enough. And boy, was it delicious. In other news, I have purchased a high caffeinated coffee ground because that's what I need. So one of these days, we're going to have a show where I'm all hopped up on double the caffeine and see how I behave. This is me on regular caffeine. I'm up to 24 ounces of coffee this morning. 22 ounces of coffee this morning. So this is me on the regular amount. And on April 30th, I am expecting an order of, which is before the next show, which, by the way, is with our friend Jeremy Kloosterman, I think. So I need to double check with him. On May 1st, we're going to do a show with, the plan is to do a show with Resi. If not, it'll be Peplink and then Resi. But I met with Resi at NAB, not with Jeremy, but Jeremy is actually my Resi rep. And we're going to just talk about some of the things that Resi is doing. We're also going to talk about how Resi works, where Resi really kind of shines, like what is their bread and butter, but also some of the things that they got working on the peripheral. So we're gonna go down that road with him. I think it's going to be next week. He's here in the chat. Yep, I'm still good for it. All right. Hey, sometime next week, maybe Tuesday, I'll reach out to you on LinkedIn, and we need to set up a vMix caller test just to make sure that works. But yeah, let's do that, and yeah, we'll see how that works. Angus says, yep. Oh, I have a great network of people that I can talk to. Oh, that's good. Good. Ember Mugs. There it is, folks. Ember Mugs. Always good to have. So yeah, we are going to have a good chat next week. Be sure you join me and Jeremy next week as we have a kind of a candid discussion. I'm not really going to send him any questions or anything like that. I'll think of some things to ask him. But it's just a conversation between two guys that, well, we use Resi at Safe Harbor. But, here's, now that I just realized this, my coworker who I went to NAB with sent me a link. Sorry. Hey, you didn't finish what coffee you have coming. I just picked like a high caffeine one. That's literally what I Amazoned. The caffeine that I have coming is called Shock Coffee, the strongest caffeinated all natural coffee with up to 50% more. I'm gonna have to make a special cup, but pretty excited about that. Okay, let me. That's what it is. So you can Google it if you need to. Hopefully it's good. Even if it's not good, I'm gonna at least drink one cup of it. Okay, so the other day I got an email from my coworker, and he said, hey, check out this live stream from this YouTuber. Now, the YouTuber's handle is Collaborative Worship, and they do a lot of like recommendations. They have like 60,000 plus subscribers. They do recommendations for church live streams. And so I was watching their recent update about, hey, we just updated our camera rig. Here's how we have it. It was kind of cool. They had like Cam 1, which was on like a tripod that somebody could manipulate, but then they had 2 more static micro Blackmagic cameras mounted underneath, one for a mid shot, one for a wide shot. And so I watched that and thought, well, we're pretty much doing all of this except for this extra little camera business. We're actually already doing pretty much everything they're recommending. So I said, you know what, I'd like to see this in action. And so I did some snooping about, and I found their website for their church. I think it's a Pentecostal church. It's a little bit different than what I'm used to, but I wasn't watching it for content. I was watching it for tech. And the video was okay, but I wasn't blown away by it. The audio was okay, but I wasn't blown away by it. All the things that I was expecting to be impressed with, like all the technical things, from their actual stream of them using this technology, I just felt were kind of like mediocre. Like their lower thirds, it was busy. It was hard to read. It was something to focus on, for example. And lower thirds, the point of lower thirds is for you to see it but not see it, to kind of see through it. So you could read the text if it shows up on screen or follow the lyrics, but be more focused on what is actually being presented. And so I think, that's my philosophy, right? So I just was kind of underwhelmed by it. And then I started thinking, what church streams do I know of that I should be impressed with? Like, let's go and look around. And so I looked at a bunch of the sister churches that I used to be associated with, and there was good audio, but not great, like video switching. There was brutal on both. There's non-engaging videos, basically that portal, that window into the auditorium of what we did on Sunday, which is very boring. That's the concept of I can watch this with my ears, right? You don't need to watch it. There's nothing engaging to see. And it's like, well, it's the content that matters. It's like, well, not really. Because usually what happens is people put your service on the telly and then their eyes are elsewhere, and that means their attention is there, not there. That's what that means. And that's something churches miss all the time, is you have to capture your audience's eyes way more than their ears. Their ears will follow where their eyes go, but their eyes will not follow necessarily where their ears go. Where I'm used to listening to, I have a rowing machine here that I use to exercise with. I watch with my ears podcasts all the time, and I get the content. I don't need to look at it. Matter of fact, I'm a little bit I have trouble with my vision, right? So I have glasses to see distances. If I take my glasses off, I can't see my screens from where my rowing machine is. Halfway through the podcast, halfway through my exercise routine, I take my glasses off. I'm like, I don't need to see this. It's just 2 talking heads back and forth. Don't need to see it. There's nothing engaging for my eyes to look at. But where your eyes go, your brain goes. You can listen, but you're not engaged. So that's a concept that churches don't understand, is have good audio and great video instead of having great audio and mediocre video. Okay? If you're going to pick one of those, have amazing video and good audio. Now, nobody will watch anything that's got bad audio. All right? If it's hard to listen to, your ears stop listening and your eyes wander. I'm not watching this. So if there's somebody's blowing into his microphone, or he's outside, he's got wind noise, I won't watch videos that have wind noise. No, thank you. I'll only watch ones that have wind noise when they're going to clean up the wind noise. Right? So it's really important that when you're producing live streams, that your eyes have something to engage. And so, like, for example, when I talk about these NAB announcements from BirdDog, I don't just talk to you at the screen. I bring them up on the screen so you can follow along with what we're doing. It's that engaging piece of like, look at the specs, and here we go. We're going to look at the actual BirdDog website and see this little cute animation, and you can kind of follow along. Now, Granted, you may not need to watch what it is that I'm showing. You may be able to visualize it in your head. I don't know. But create something that's visually engaging. And when I went to the Collaborative Worships Church's live stream, it wasn't, the audio was all right. The video was boring. Lower thirds were distracting. I didn't really want to watch. And I think that that's like a pardon the expression, but it's like a come to Jesus moment about your technology. If you're not going to invest in it, if you're not going to take it serious, don't do it. Stop doing it. It's like, well, we got to be on the internet. No, you don't. Do outreach ministry. Bring people in that way. Go and meet people. Don't just think that people are cruising Facebook or YouTube looking for a congregation or a community to belong to. They're not really. So like go and do things that will actually reach people instead of assuming that you got to be online. The previous church that I used to volunteer for back in Michigan, that is a lesson that fell on deaf ears. I was like, we should not be live streaming because first of all, there's like 15 people that watch and we're doing it poorly. We make ourselves look bad. And so this doesn't even help people understand who we are or what it's like to be here. The church had no interest in investing any money in it. They didn't see it as a cost that needed to be in the reoccurring budget. It was like, how much money do you need? It's like thousands. A production takes thousands of dollars. Like, ooh, well, just turn it on, like just stream it out to the internet. It's like, why? What a waste. What a waste of everyone's time. Your time, the church's time, the technician's time, and the people watching at home. It's a total waste of time. Total waste. So ask those questions seriously about, I went around and I was watching multiple congregations that I know of that live stream, and some of them did it okay. Some of them did it poorly. And then, I went over to some bigger churches who have budgets and have production teams and watched and was like, yeah, this is pretty good. Like, this is engaging enough. If I believed in the stuff they were saying, I might stick around. But, a lot of, there's a vast majority, or vast, what am I trying to say here? There's a wide range of streams out in the world. And so find something that captivates your mind that's engaging to watch. Find those streams and start emulating those, because we're getting, the human race is getting inundated with visual things, and it's warping our brains as to how to pay attention. People used to be able to go and have revival meetings for 6 days straight and listen to the same guy droning on and on and on, and they could engage in that. That's not the way it is anymore. And so you need to make your content engaging and make it feel alive. And then when you do that, it brings the audience, but it brings the entirety of the listener into the conversation instead of just autopiling it with their ears, because they're not actually listening. If they have you on in the background, they're not listening. Their brains are elsewhere. Good luck. I'm assuming that's with the coffee. So many YouTubers try to upgrade to the high-end cameras and microphones without learning to do anything with it. Most of these people could do a decent enough job with a full auto GoPro and a tiny shotgun mic. It's true. Probably could. I'm probably a victim of that, by the way. That I have, my equipment is way over top what it should be or what it needs to be. I feel like my technology decisions, at least the ones directed by the pastors, is to avoid being embarrassed by when their pastor friends ask them what they do or have. Avoid being embarrassed by when their pastor friends, say that one more time, when their pastor friends ask them what they do or have. What's interesting about that statement is embarrassment goes a long way. I've actually experienced that here in Tennessee, where to be embarrassed is one of the number one ways to shut people down when it comes to technology. So like, here's the example, is like, if you look unprofessional, right, then it's kind of embarrassing. You spend a lot of time working on your lesson. You spend a lot of time thinking about how this is going to be received. and then the technology makes you look silly. Like the microphone isn't put on right, or it's not connecting, or it's crackling, or it's whatever. And so, or it looks clumsy. And so the goal in a live stream is to make it feel as natural as it should. Nothing should be manufactured. So like when you meet here's the rift between live streaming excuse me, between live streaming and sales pitching. Okay? This is a big complaint that I have about live streamers. I want to hear from the person that is you. I don't want to hear the manufactured stats of your product. Like when we all hear a sales pitch, think of yourself at the front door of your house and somebody comes up and says, "Hey, I'd like to talk to you about you," like I'm not interested in this conversation because it's just a pitch. It's just a sales pitch. "Hey, I noticed your roof has some damage and it's probably from that big storm we just had, isn't it? Yeah, maybe we should quote you, and your neighbor's having his roof done just down the road." I'm like, not interested, dude. You're here to get my money is what you're here to do. And sales pitches, they need to be rooted in, hey, let's talk about what your challenges are and see if we can help you with that. Having that personal conversation, being a human being, which is I think what differentiated my show when I worked at BirdDog, and maybe this show too, is if you meet me, and maybe Sean can back me up on this. When you meet me in real life, this is me. Like, this is who I am. I'm this guy. I'm not putting on an act. I'm not putting on a show. If you meet me in real life, maybe my BirdDog employees, former employees, can back me up on this too. It's like, this is me. I get on my soapboxes and I laugh about dumb things and I play my little sound effects and I have a very strange personality. This is me. Like, this is what makes my stream, what I think, genuine. Whereas guys that get on and they make a show, literally make a show of themselves and of the things that they're talking about, you feel it. You feel it in the conversation, the fakeness, the polishedness of it. It creates a barrier between who it is you're trying to talk to. And it's the Jimmy Fallon complaint. He laughs at everything, right? Are those laughs genuine? People say, no, he laughs like that all the time. It's like, it seems fake. It seems manufactured. And it's the same thing. If you laugh disingenuinely at your own joke, if you think it's funny when you know it wasn't, people pick up on that right away. And that's a huge barrier when it comes to people actually connecting with you as a on-air talent. And the same thing goes for like church pastors. If they come across as untouchable or unapproachable on camera, that doesn't help. That does not help on a live stream. That makes people think, wow, this guy thinks highly of himself. Not going there. Not going to that community because he's holier than thou. I'm like, no, not interested. No, you put in the effort. I'm talking about the folks who just plug everything in and don't learn why you need to adjust the levels correctly. Ooh, I see. Well, we have spent an exorbitant amount of time hashing out how to make this stuff work correctly. And you guys have been the guinea pigs for most of it. So there you go. The reason it sounds good enough now is because you guys helped me with that. Inaudibly quiet voices, super loud noises. That, I think, is my soundboard, right? I need to go in and adjust my soundboard, but we're getting there. We're getting there. We're trying. Not having a live stream is more embarrassing in their mind. Even their octogenarian congregations couldn't use it. Yeah, okay. Good point. Not being online is a bad idea. And I think that's what my previous congregation struggled with is I asked the guy who was in charge of the live stream, I said, why are we still doing this, man? We need to get rid of this live stream. He said, well, we got people that are stuck at home. Have to have it. We got to keep doing it. And I was like, at that point, I almost said, all right, then budget for it. I need $4,000 a month. And then if he would have been like, it's like, yeah, no. Shut it down. Shut it down or fund it, but don't do something in the middle because it makes us look terrible. It makes us look like we don't even take ourselves seriously, let alone our faith. Hey, greetings from India. Go Web. How are you, man? Good to see you. Greetings to you, too, all the way from Tennessee. Hopefully you and Sanaya are well. Say hello to her for me. Go Web. I heard about BirdDog firmware updates for converters. What's new? Hey, Chad. We have, and it's fun. Hi, Go Web. Go Web has appeared. Yeah, so I did see something about firmware updates. Let's just jump over to the converter announcements here. 4K family. The 4K family has had a new, I think a relatively new update, which now enables it to do this, which is kind of cool. What I want to see is the back here. 4K decode. I don't understand. Is this a multi-viewer? Anyway, next level NDI, yada, yada, yada. Where, I guess maybe we just got to go to the release notes. Cross converter, distribute content, and then we're into kind of the other things. So look at this picture right here of the, I don't know if you can see it, but this picture of this 1U rack mount has the wrong ears punched in it. It's supposed to be 3 spaces, guys. 1U is 3, not 2. Anyway, minor detail. We actually had that problem on the original shipment, but they fixed it. All right. NDI tools, 4 encode, 4 decode, or 2 and 2. So it allows you to encode and decode 2 channels, and 2 channels are all decode or all encode is what I'm gathering, right? Let's go to the release notes of the quad. Oh, this takes me back. And, they have the OG4 in here as well. Character limit issue, fixed payload ID, QSys API decode, statuses are properly now populates. Encoder NDI groups are now displayed. Properly working with Studio Monitor Discovery. OLED spacing has now been optimized. Okay. API reboot command after changing operation works now. The UI dashboard. The 5.5.273 release is BirdUI 5, Fleet Manager support, RUDP support on 1 gig RJ45 connections. Okay, that's important. Decode interlaced video no longer stutters on playback. Oh, really? We had that issue for a long time. Performance fixes of 4x12G. Yeah, when it was like full on, it always had issues. Splash screen no longer displays intermittent during. So, I don't know who. Oh, you know what? Can we see who updated 8 months ago? Doesn't tell me who made this update, but these products are now run under a project manager, and so these release notes are hopefully hardened at this point and can be taken seriously, which is great. The Quad hasn't had its update. It's just its 2 younger sisters. Quad is a product Quad is a product which is sent in market, and later they started thinking about what to do with it. Yeah, I don't know if that's the accurate statement or if it's the potential was realized once it was out. And so, but the Quad isn't. This says update for Quad and OG4 cards. So this firmware, I think, is supposed to be for the Quad. Oh, whoops. Boo. Quad downloads. I'm not too sure, but I think the Quad has a... Oh, not a Silicon 2 update. I see. Yeah, Silicon 2 hasn't been updated yet for Quad, which is an important one. Let's make sure they get that right. Cool. Interesting. Anyway, so we've talked about a lot today, and I wore my BirdDog swag just to do it, but it has been... NAB was a good showing for BirdDog. Of course, it's always good to see those guys. I do miss them as my coworkers. I miss that group and that dynamic because it was a formidable time in my career, but also, as I liked them as people and their personalities, and so it was great to see them again. I'm so happy that Frink is project manager. I think that's the right move for him, and I hope that he does well in that position. It's kind of a love-hate position, I think, because the project manager is the guy that has to stand in the gap to stop the products from going to market before they're ready. And if they go to market before they're ready, he's on the hook. So it's kind of a brutal situation for project managers, but it's a necessary one because that's how you're going to repair your reputation, is by making sure the products work day one. Curious to see if we have any launch dates. We'll follow up with that in future shows, but as things launch, we are only 2 weeks removed from NAB, 2 full weeks. Now, the show started almost 3 weeks ago, but we're almost 2 weeks after the show. And so the clock is on for any of these announcements. If we're still going along with the 6 week launch window. Yeah, the clock is on. So hopefully they're in transit and we'll have a big announcement to see those things go live. But yeah, good stuff. And then we followed up. We followed up with a conversation about making engaging content and taking it seriously. And I think a lot of churches don't see the value in that, and it's up to the guys that do that stuff. Churches, communities, schools, whatever. It's up to us to explain it to them to see the value. And then if you do that correctly and you articulate that clearly and they reject that proposal, then your path is made clearer because they don't prioritize it, which means then you can get rid of it. Get rid of that requirement in your life. Or, as a sound technician, one that I highly respect, once told me, the only way that you get better at your job is when the people around you have high expectations of themselves. Meaning, they are going to enable you to operate with excellence because they have to operate with excellence. Their expectation is, I can do this better. I can do this better. And then when they do it better, the thing out of their mouth is, yay, but I could do this better. And they're thinking along those lines of, they enjoy it when they do it better, and then they think, still not good enough. We had a question one time from one of the minister's wives actually at our church, and she said, so when will it be good enough? And he appropriately responded, it will never be good enough. We will always be moving, always be growing, always be thinking about what's next, how to make it better, how to make it more engaging. We'll never arrive, and that's the point. We're never going to arrive. We're going to try stuff. We're going to fail at things, but we're going to keep making it better. And failing is not making it worse. Failing is just finding out that's not going to work. And let's try something else. So there is that element that is pretty important when you're, whoever you're working with. It's like the moment that you hear somebody say it's just good enough, you're not going to be growing in that position anymore. Everybody's done growing, especially if your leadership is done growing. That's going to be the case. Hey, are you back at BirdDog? I am not. I do not work for BirdDog. I'm wearing BirdDog swag because today's show is about BirdDog at NAB and all of their announcements. So, but I don't work there. Resi is a cool way to help drive engagement. Super excited to talk about that next week. Yes, let's do that. Exactly. We excel as a team. My expectation is always to find something better that I can do. And that's the right, as a leader, that's the right expectation of yourself is, and to explain that to your people, your team. I think I could have done this better. I think I could have led this better. Here are the ways that I think I would have liked to do this better next time. Always be re-evaluating so that you can get better. Better is not an attainable goal necessarily. It's not like we've arrived at better. It's that we are better this time than we did last time. For me, I'm constantly trying to do it better with the tools that I have at my disposal. Absolutely. Better does not necessarily mean I got to buy the next thing. Understanding the potential of what it is you already have is a great way. Usually when you buy a new tool, there's a 6-month integration period you should give yourself of, I'm going to really learn this thing. Instead of, I'm buying this thing, I already know all about it, I don't need to explore it anymore. It's like, no, you need to keep asking. And you need to keep exploring. And you can use that product better and sharpen that iron and keep getting that edge really, really sharp. When I share that with people around me, it really does move us all forward. Agreed. Exactly. You don't always need to spend money to improve things. I agree. I mean, just knowing your own rig. Like, I don't think I've purchased anything since what was the last thing I bought for this computer rig? It's been a long time. Maybe that light. But I rebuilt, I made my new machine when I moved, right? And that's kind of the last major upgrade to this system. And, Balu sent me the ingest card. So it gives you this, but like I'm dwelling in this spot as to like, how do I make this better with what I have? I don't have a budget to like really, I'd love to get a bigger stream deck, or I'd love to get a better light, or I'd love to get more cameras or whatever. Like I just can't, I can't afford to do that. How do I make this better? Well, you know what? Let's figure out how to make a soundboard work.
That's pretty neat.
And I spent some time doing it with the resources I already had. I figured out how to trigger VLC, how to open VLC over Stream Deck, how to load a soundbite, how to play a soundbite, all that stuff. Was able to, that didn't cost me anything but my time, which is a cost, but I didn't have to buy anything new to make that happen, right? Just how do you make it better? How do you get better at what it is you're doing? And it doesn't necessarily mean you got to have a new thing. So 6 months, I wish. Let's start at 6 months. Hey, what was one thing that was the best at NAB this year? The best thing at NAB. I talked about a couple of them at the Blackmagic booth last week, but something I want to talk about with PepLink. I'll just do the Blackmagic one because the PepLink one is up and coming. But there's something with PepLink that you should be excited with me about. The one thing though from Blackmagic that I'm pretty excited about is the ability to do live green screening with their it's just on the tip of my tongue here. Their where is it? Ultimate product. I was blown away by this year, and the reason I was blown away by this was actually Blackmagic wasn't really doing it the way that I was impressed by it, but I'm impressed with this product. But I was impressed by a company called Socially You, which I talked about last week, and they basically take a live recorded background that's loaded on a hyperdeck, and they stream it onto their green screen, and they merge the two together with an Ultimate 12. Man, it was cool. It finally solves the problem that I've had with green screens for years, that they look fake. And Blackmagic at their booth had a Unreal Engine generated background, and it just you could tell it was fake. But Socially You was recording backgrounds and then showing them as their backgrounds in their studio that was at NAB, and that was really cool. So I was really impressed with them, really impressed with the way that this works, and it's sparked a lot of creative ideas with our studio. So pretty excited about this. More on that as it develops, but we'll have to let the budget grow a little bit before we can do something like that. But it's within our grasp. It's like within the next 12 months, I think we could probably be doing something like that. I just learned about something new at QLab last night, and it will greatly simplify some of my work. Spanning a single 9600 by 1080 video across 5 SDI outputs. I used to use Resolume, but now I'm going to have to set it up through my MacBook and QLab. Oh, very cool. I'm a wing it guy. I learn on the fly. Not the best. But as a portable church, I don't have the luxury of testing all week long for Sunday. Yeah, see, I would not. I'm the other way. I don't test on Sundays. I execute on Sundays. And so I need to test beforehand. And so whether that's I set it up here at home or I go into the soundstage and test, I do not do anything new on Sunday morning. I know my process and I execute on Sunday. So that's just a technician difference. Mostly because I don't want anything that goes wrong to reflect poorly on the talent that's on stage if I screw it up. And I probably will. Delightfully, I will be doing that next in about 6 months. Awesome. Hey, I definitely want to learn about PepLink. Well, 2 weeks, we're going to talk about PepLink, and it is going to be awesome because I'm so excited about PepLink. It's really cool. Do you have a PepLink? I have a Max BR1. No, but I think that's the one that we're going to be getting. So more on that soon. I'm tempted to get a kit. Oh, that question was for Angus. Hey, I've been doing a lot more work lately where I need more than just live view bonding. Speedify has been giving me trouble. Hey, Angus, they have an NFR program. Not sure how you'd be using it, but maybe a way to check them out. Yeah, I'd be using a single unit for my own productions. I wouldn't want to resell anything. There you go. Yeah, I don't really want to get into PepLink too much because it's going to take away from that conversation we're going to have in 2 weeks. But our question has always been, I need solid connection to the internet from a remote location anywhere in the United States. And PepLink is probably going to be that answer. So I'll talk about how that works. I mean, you could go to their website and find out. But if it's not urgent, then save it. And I'll explain it to you when I go live in 2 weeks. Good stuff. So here's something interesting. The soundstage that I work at is shut down for 2 weeks. Partially because, entirely because the lead minister and the technician that I work with are going to Scotland for 2 weeks, which means that I have 2 Sundays that I'm not producing a show because I already pre-recorded them. Now, I had to work like a dog to get them done, a few late nights and much of the weekend to get everything done. And then through this week, I've been doing all the other stuff, so newsletters and orders of worship and everything like that. But now it's done. And I've actually had a day and a half where I could work on a little pet project. And I'm not going to talk about that project yet because it's still kind of in the growing phase. I'm working on something, though. And so I have a chance to kind of spend some time on it and think about it. I do have to upload my social media stuff tomorrow, but even that's all done in advance. So I just have to upload them to the internet. But yeah, I'm pretty excited to have a chance to work on it. I was working on it this morning before the show. That's why the show started. Sorry. Show started on time because I was paying attention and I wasn't distracted. So there you go. But anyways, so the next 2 Sundays are actually pre-recorded services. They're brand new. Everything about them is new. Songs, videos, sermon, everything. But and it's a new series even because we're after Easter. But it's not actually happening live at the soundstage these next 2 weeks. They're pre-done. So that's kind of a nice change of pace for me. And we're going to have a few more of these. We did one for NAB. That Sunday we were in Vegas. There was a pre-recorded service these 2 weeks. And then there's going to be another one in June and another one in August. So there we go. That's the happenings where I'm at. And it's kind of nice that we have that option because we can schedule it in Resi. Shout out to Jeremy. And they just go off live and they show like a live stream. And then, we go from there. I'll save that question for next week. I'm going to write it down though, because it's a good question. Make a little Resi note. All right. Well, folks, I am Sim Live. I am going to get back to it. It's been an interesting day. I need to get some things accomplished because time is ticking and these 2 weeks are going to go by quickly. So, oh no, John. He's going to drill me next week. Nah, I'm just going to ask you questions, man. I'm just curious. I want to know more about Resi. I'm a big fan. It seems to work really well for what we need it for right now. We're thinking about upgrading, but the price is double. So we need to talk about what that means, and that'll be great. So we're on the light program right now. I think we're going to standard or something, but we're talking about it. We talked about that with the folks at the booth. So we should talk about that next week. I'll add that to the show notes. So good times. We will we'll set up a time to test so that we're not going by the seat of our pants when it's time to go live. But I'll send you a vMix caller link, and we'll test that early next week. And then, yeah, join us next week, guys, because Jeremy's going to be with me. The plan is for him to be on the show and for us to just have a conversation. Two real guys having a conversation about making things work in the real world. So pretty excited about that. Thanks, Jeremy, for offering to be on the show. And, yeah, looking forward to that. I will wrap it up, though, here, folks. It's been, how long has it been? It's been 2.5 hours? What on earth? Okay. Well, that's how you know that at least I had fun, because I didn't realize it's been that long. So take care of yourselves, guys. Thank you so much for coming along. Always a pleasure to be with you. And seriously, it's you guys in the chat that make this very, very interesting. And so thanks for hanging out with me. Look forward to next week. Don't miss it. Mark it on your calendars. Synchronize your watches for Thursday at 10 a.m. Central Time next week. We're going to talk to Resi's own Jeremy Kloosterman, and he is going to walk us through that service and how it all works, and ideal situations, but also in other places that Resi might be able to provide solutions. And so it won't be sales pitchy. It'll be a conversation, and I'm looking forward to having a good one. So long one today. Yeah, it's rare. I don't normally go this long. Hey, it's been great fun. Excellent. Join us next week, and join us in the comment section, and we will definitely hang out with you the next time around. So take care, guys. Thanks so much, and we'll see you next week.